Welcome back to the Jeff Box Show, Father's Day weekend. And just following along those lines, man. A lot of folks celebrating Father's Day. Make sure you be good to all the dads. Our next guest is from an army of normal folks. And I'm talking about none other than Mr. Bill Courtney, joining us here on the Jeff Box Show. Bill, how you doing?
I'm groovy, man. How are you? It's Friday. It's Friday.
Yes, sir.
It's
Friday, man, and it's time to spoil all the dads.
I just time stamped your show. I'm sorry about that, but I'm good. You're it for the week. I'm done after you, bro. So
Yeah.
good.
I know how these things, all these media tours, they can be a handful.
Yeah, that's right.
So, your story is an interesting one. It's something that I can relate to. Your father wasn't there for you coming up, and you're coaching this football team that you guys made the documentary for. Congrats on the documentary, by the way. I know it's 2012, but congrats on that. Why is the issue of fatherlessness of such importance to you? Let's start there.
First, one thing, all I was doing was coaching football, and some dudes in skinny-legged jeans from LA showed up wearing scarves, which you don't do in Memphis, and made a movie. And that's what, so I didn't have anything to do with the documentary, except I just showed up and got on film. I just want to make sure I cleared that up.
Right.
I'm no talent, man. I'm from Memphis. I got a lumber business, and I'm a football coach. So that's that. Anyway, fatherlessness. My dad left home when I was 4, and no relationship with him. In fact, he passed away about 6 months ago, and his third wife's son called and told me. That's how I found out.
Wow.
My mother was subsequently married, divorced 5 times. My first real fist fight was with daddy number 3, and daddy number 4 shot at me down a hallway.
Wow.
With a 38, and I had to dive out a window to save myself. So, I had a couple of grandfathers that were good dudes, but I lettered in 5 sports in high school, and I was a strapping young man, and by all outward appearances, I was doing all right, but inside I was dying, and what I was dying over was, when you're trying to do things the right way, and you're coming up as especially a young man, and that your father knows that you are playing sports and doing all these things and never shows up, what you do is you start to question your own value. Because if your own father doesn't want to have anything to do with you, something really must be wrong with you. And despite outward appearances, that creates all kinds of insecurities, pain, suffering, questions about your identity and who you are and your value. And I'm 54 years old, and I've been married to the same woman for 32 years, and I have 4 children who are 27, 26, 25, and 24 that I love very much. And I've built a business and done all this stuff, and most people would look at me and say I got it together, but I'm going to tell you, until I was about 45, I continued to struggle with why I was not valuable enough that a man would want to come into my life and love me. And
congrats on the family, man, because you've done wonderful. People coming up with that sort of beginning usually go kind of to the wayside. Like your will.
I got a 10. I got a dime for a wife. She kept me around, and she put up with my crap. But that's a segue into this, a long-winded answer, but about 10 years ago, Lisa looked at me on Father's Day, and here we are coming up on Father's Day, and she looked at me and she said, "Man, why are you such an asshole on Father's Day?" What is your problem? And I'm like, I'm not. And I didn't even recognize it, but it weighed so heavily on me all the way through my 40s that I didn't even realize how bad it affected me. And it took Lisa to show me. And, she said, I get the pain from all of that in your life, but you need to drop that and start celebrating being a father. And that's when I started checking myself and getting right. But I guess what I'm saying to you is, despite all the success and all the things I've done in my life, I still had so many deep-seated insecurities and pain as a result of not only my own father, but a number of other men in my life who showed up and left and I never saw them again. And I know that the kids that I coached at Manassas, the vast majority of which were fatherless, despite the outward bravado and toughness and coolness and all the other things that, 15 to 25-year-old males emit, I knew what was going on inside their souls because it went inside mine. And the truth is, I identified with those kids a lot more than I even identified with my own kids because the way I came up.
That's an incredible story, and I can certainly relate. Actually, the other way, I was a single father. Well, I am a single father. My kids are all grown up now, but it wasn't easy. So I know how that battle is.
Well,
And
and I need to be careful.
Mhm.
I have divorced friends. I think divorce is really tough on everybody.
Yeah,
I think all things considered, you want to avoid divorce if you can, but there's a difference. And everybody has struggles and I'm not making light of anybody's, but the fact is, the whole truth is there's a difference in a son that grows up when his father passes away. That's terrible,
right.
horrible thing to bear. But the father's gone. There's also a difference of two people who divorce and both parents stay active in the children's life. The divorce is hard and it's tough on the kids, but active parent. I'm talking about abandonment here. I'm not
Yeah,
talking about somebody who died, and I'm talking about a cognizant choice to disavow yourself of your own child.
yeah. I'm familiar with that. My child's mother did that, so I'm quite familiar.
It's
Um,
painful.
Yeah, it is, and you carry it with you for a long, long time. And when we watch sports, because obviously I'm into sports like you are as well. And when you look on the TV screen, you see athletes say, "Hi, mom, hi, mom." Usually because dad's not there in a lot of cases.
Right.
Um, how did you relate what you went through with your players, and how did they relate to you?
Well, all right. I mean, like I said, it's the end of the week, so we'll just be painfully candid.
Hmm.
Um, you see me walking down the street, you're going to see a 54-year-old white dude riding around in a nice ride, married to the same woman for 30 years with a really nice house, 4 kids, all of whom got put through college. I've got a business with 100 employees, and that has enabled us to go on vacations and stuff. I mean, I'm not rich, but I'm in good shape. And then you look at the Oscar and my book and speaking all over the place. And most people would sum me up as an upper middle class to upper class white dude and assume that I am that, what
Right.
that category looks like, which I am not. That's not how I identify, and that is not how I came up.
Mhm.
So at Manassas, in 7 years at Manassas, there was one white student in the whole school and 2 Hispanic students and no Asians. So that's 99.99% African American. And
Yes.
the 3 communities that support Manassas are Smoky City, Greenlaw, and New Chicago. And the demographics are wild, but 0.3% of the people there have a college degree. Fewer than half have an operating vehicle. And an 18-year-old male is 3 times more likely to be in jail or dead than he is to have a job by his 21st birthday. That's just the demographics. It sounds sensationalized. It sounds like something in movies, but those are just facts. And so when you ask a question, you know, how was it when I showed up in there? Well, you summed me up by what I just told you, and you
Right.
summed those kids up by what I just told you. I mean, you're mixing oil and water.
Yeah.
But the reality is that in very short order, I got to understand that these kids were no different than any other kids. They were yes or no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and we're dying, absolutely dying to be part of anything positive. And when they got to know me, they found out that I came up the same way most of them did. And so, despite our cultural categories that the last 2 decades has started dividing us into, the truth was that despite what your eyes may see, the coach and the players had a whole lot in common. And so how did we do? We did great because we understood each other.
Yeah. And you guys turned that into immediate success. Well, maybe not immediate, but you got a lot of those guys off to college and turned it around.
When we showed up, there were 17 kids on the team, and they'd won 4 games in 10 years. They were 4-95.
Oh my goodness!
You don't immediately start having big success, but the last 2 years we had 75 kids on the team, and we were 18-2 our last 2 years. So, a lot of work, a lot of coaching, a lot of dedication on the kids' behalf, and things changed. But none of that happens unless you start to really, despite societal preconceived notions, start to break all that down and understand each other as human beings and work together, lead, allow yourself to be led, learn, subscribe to different notions, get rid of preconceived stuff you think that you know.
Right.
And just be civil, non-threatening, but have real conversations and real learning about stuff that matters, and amazing things can happen. And that's what you see in the movie Undefeated.
You started an army of normal folks. Tell me about it.
So, by the way, I got to interject this, by the way. How's Henry Parrish going to do this year at Miami?
Huh?
Henry Parrish, the tailback at Miami?
At Miami?
University? I think he was an Ole Miss guy transfer. I just saw the Miami thing. All right. Army, it don't matter. Army of normal folks. After the Academy Awards, I planned on coming back to Memphis and just running my lumber business, coaching football, being a husband and dad. I had my 10 minutes in fame, but it didn't work out that way. Call after call, and I started doing speeches to like Nike and the Olympics and all this. And then
I saw you with Puff Daddy. You're cool.
Yeah, I was.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, his name's Sean. But anyway, all of that, and then from the speeches, people were like, "Man, you need to write a book." All this stuff you talk about. So then I wrote a book, more speeches. So over the last 7 years, there's been TV appearances, book, all that stuff. And I was being interviewed by this dude from Chicago, and I said this: "Look, there are places in every city in America, Memphis, Miami, Nashville, LA, wherever, where when you drive by and you look down the street or you're on the interstate and you look down that off ramp or you see down the neighborhood, that you do not want your car to break down. You do not want a flat tire right there. You know the neighborhoods I'm talking about, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And as you pass by, you kind of look down in there, and as you keep going fast, you think, man, somebody ought to do something about that one day, as if that sentiment matters. And my suggestion is we kick that rearview mirror about 15 degrees to the left and look ourselves in the face, say, maybe I ought to do something about that one day. And the reason I say that's because although there have been a lot of well-intentioned government programs that are decades old, they've been so messed up. The government's proven woefully inadequate in caring for the most among us. And I would even argue some of those programs have even grown to be paternalistic. Fancy people using words nobody ever uses on CNN and Fox, they ain't fixing nothing. Right. So, I just think it's going to take an army of normal folks seeing a little piece of need in their corner of the world and quit worrying about who somebody is that's going to fix this, and all of us just do our part. So that's what I said in this interview. They called me back 6 months later and said, we can't quit thinking about the interview. We want to start a podcast where you go around. We're not going to interview politicians. We're not going to interview, A-listers and personalities. We're going to interview normal people who've got money problems, family problems, kid problems, normal people, because normal people got problems.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to do normal people who don't do good things because they've been ordained or picked or the press highlights it or whatever, but they do it not because they're great people, but despite all their problems, and highlight the amazing things they've done. And we're going to call it an Army of Normal Folks. We want you to go around and interview these people and host it and put together hopefully entertaining, thought-provoking, certainly conflicted, but redemptive and inspirational stories, and then try to start this army of normal folks who are inspired by these stories to say, you know what, I can be that guy that kicks that rearview mirror 15 degrees. And so I said, all right, that sounds like a worthy use of time. I'll give it a shot. And so we spent the last year or so doing, interviews and all that. And then about 9 days ago, it went live. And, bro, I mean, we were in the top 10 in the United States on Apple by day 3.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's not because of me. It's because of great guests and great stories and great content, but it's also because it speaks to, it does not matter if you are black, white, Latino, Asian, male, female, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, moderate. It doesn't matter what you are. There's one thing that, despite all the vitriol in our media and our politics, that we can all gather around, and that's this. Regardless of who you are, what you look like, or where you come from, if you will do something inspirational and good for another human being in your community, that's something all of us, regardless of who we are, where we come from, can gather around. And that's the story we're telling and the narrative we're telling. And we're trying to grow this army of normal folks around this podcast to actually have a community of people that are out there trying to do something. Just, you don't have to create some big old thing. Just do something small in your community.
Right.
So that's what we're doing.
Hey, man, I'd like to congratulate you on that. I think that's outstanding. I know a few people here in Miami, in the hood, in Liberty City, and some of the more underprivileged neighborhoods that are doing similar type work, and they don't seek adulation, just like you don't. You just do it.
Listen, there are thousands of people. And by the way, I want to hear about those guys ladies or whoever they are. I would love to highlight them on our show. But there are thousands of people doing this. The problem is we don't even know about it because the power structure in the media and the politics, they don't highlight that. It's not what we talk about. And it is high time that we start understanding that despite whatever category of groups we subscribe to politically, racially, socially, religiously,
right,
we're all still human beings, man. And there is common ground to be found. And I can't think of something better to convalesce around than serving your fellow man.
No doubt. We're talking with Bill Courtney, of course, from an army of, what is it? An army of common folks, of normal folks. Right. Army of normal folks. And continue with the great work. Let everybody know where and how they can tune into your podcast. That's very important. And where they can follow you.
Great. So you can follow me on all social media at I am Coach Bill. You can go to Coach Bill Courtney website for that stuff. Most importantly, normalfolks.us is our website. You can go to the website and please subscribe so that we drop a episode every Tuesday. So if you'll subscribe, you'll get a new episode dropped into your library every Tuesday. And of course, you can go to all the social media folks. That's normalfolks.us. And, man, tune in, listen, subscribe, share it with people on social, share it with your friends. And every story should be entertaining and thought-provoking and redemptive and interesting, but every story is not going to speak to your specific discipline or skill set or passion. But if you listen long enough, something will. And
Yeah.
a light bulb will go off in your head and you say, you know what, man, I can do that. And that's our goal, is to create an army of normal folks who say, yep, that's something I can do.
No doubt. There's a couple of guys before we get out of here. They're pretty famous. Snoop Dogg out there in the West Coast, and Uncle Luke down here in Miami, and that's who I was referring to, man. Like he's about to take a couple of kids, actually his football team in the inner city, on a southern tour. They go to South Carolina. They go to a lot of Division I schools, and they do it because of what's in here, and that's what I'm getting from you.
That's it, man.
It's in here, man. It's in your heart,
brother. Please connect us. I'd love to talk to them about that kind of stuff, because that's what it is. And look, I think the symphony orchestra is amazing. I really do. I like going to listen to it. I can't carry a tune. And despite my mom's best efforts, I can't play the violin, the piano, the oboe, none of it. So you ain't going to find me out there teaching kids how to do classical music. Although that would be a wonderful thing to do. But I'm an okay football coach, and I'm passionate about football because what my coaches meant to me as surrogate fathers when I came up. So that's where my discipline and my passion met at a place I could serve. You can do it in the humanities. You can do it in music. You can do it ballet. You can do it. There's so many different things that people have talents for that they're passionate about. And where their talents and their passion meet, there's an opportunity to serve. And that's all we're trying to do, is share all kinds of different stories to inspire people to say, I can do that.
No doubt. Bill, thank you so much, man. Once again, thank you for joining us. Keep up the great work. I know Father's Day. I hope you've gotten over the hump now, and you can enjoy it.
Yeah, it's the deal, man. I celebrate my kids now. We're good.
Yeah, that's wonderful, man. Hey, it's been great having you here on the Jeff Fox Show. Let's connect again sometimes. I'm going to reach out to your people, and I want you guys to get with Uncle Luke, man. He's a great guy, and I love what he's doing in the community.
I want to hear that story. Thanks for having me on, and happy Father's Day to you too as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.